Hello, today is Friday, December 11th, 2020. I'm Joe Schmidt from TC2, and this is Staying Connected. Last year, about this time, you probably had your ICT plan in place for 2020, and I'm sure now, looking back, it probably had a bit of variance. Here's what's important. As disrupted as 2020 has been, you can bet that some of that disruption, particularly in the technology and communication space, it's going to continue for many years to come. And it's going to change what you buy and from whom. And that is why today I'm joined by two of my fellow TC2 directors, Theresa Knutson and Tony Mangino. What we want to do is share some of our client observations from 2020 and then help you plan for the years ahead. Okay, hey guys, thanks for joining me today. Tony, let me start with you. So what have you seen out there in 2020?
Thanks, Joe. We've certainly seen the use of corporate VPNs skyrocket. And with that, the resulting need to increase hub site bandwidth, increased VPN licensing, and upgrades to hardware like VPN concentrators, Cisco Firepower ASA upgrades, that type of thing. I've also seen numerous examples of enterprise customers reducing port bandwidths at remote sites as workloads and application traffic shifts. Perhaps not surprisingly, we're also seeing an acceleration in the pace of truly transformational network change with a focus on things like SD-WAN and internet-first architectures and Microsoft Teams enterprise voice integration.
Yeah, Tony, I've had clients realize that they just don't really fully understand or have control of their licenses or usage costs for things that are as a service type solutions like UCaaS solutions and cloud solutions. So, Theresa, what have you seen?
Well, it's interesting because change always presents opportunities for things to go wrong. I had a client this week who disconnected some large telecom infrastructure. They had to return the equipment to the supplier, but then they got hit with a one-time fee for the non-return of equipment, but it was kind of buried in an invoice that was hard to find and see. So you got to keep an eye on things as things change. And I know that my clients are also struggling with managing their employees' wireless spend. There's lots of changes. There's furloughs, there's layoffs, and those things have created an opportunity for the spend not to trend in the right way if it's not closely managed.
Theresa, why should enterprises be thinking differently about their ICT spend?
Well, the lasting impact of COVID for enterprises is significant. Companies may have many more people now working remotely who used to be in offices, and they're using different tools and access methods, as Tony mentioned, and different applications. They also may have offices that are sitting empty right now and might be closing, or maybe they're not yet, but they might in the future. So enterprises and their employees are facing big challenges, and our new normal is very different.
So what should companies do to deal with these challenges?
Well, now's the time to review and revamp your ICT strategy, and it's a big task. So I'm going to talk about some steps to help you accomplish that. The first thing to do is to identify your key suppliers and review those contracts, and then do some further gathering on data to find out how your usage of those services is tracking against those contractual commitments. Key suppliers in this space will include telecom providers, cloud providers, UC providers, mobile providers, and even your TEM provider if you use one of those. Assess if the contracts are covering your new and changed requirements. So that's kind of step one.
So let's be frank. Data gathering is never a fun task, but it is critical to understand where you are now, and that way it'll help you create a plan on where you want to go.
Yeah, it's definitely not a glamorous undertaking, but the devil's in the details. After you've amassed all the details and reviewed those, gather the leaders within your companies and have a discussion about what they're planning for 2021. Is there continued remote work? Are there site closures? Are there new partners? Are there expanding operations? Are transformational projects like SD-WAN either being fast-tracked or delayed? And it's likely that you don't need to buy as much of the same services that you are buying today. And then you might need to buy more services that you didn't expect to buy prior to COVID. And I guess the key goal to accomplish as you start looking at your suppliers and your contracts is to try to negotiate for as much flexibility as possible in light of our new normal.
Yeah, I'm sure that UC and cloud services are also front and center in that planning. So, Tony, after companies take that first step that Theresa just outlined, what's next?
Well, Joe, benchmarking is really important. Companies should have key supplier deals benchmarked to determine where they stand with the market and to factor in their new and perhaps evolving requirements. Chances are, for example, they didn't count on certain types of usage going through the roof, So they may not have the right pricing models in place or certain key rate elements optimized. Benchmarking should definitely cover your financials. That would be unit rates, credits, waivers, revenue commitments, but also key operational and commercial provisions like your SLAs, account team support, billing. Based on the ICT strategy and what the benchmarking reveals, we often recommend that a company prepare for competitive procurements, or at least some type of structured conversation with their suppliers with the goal of addressing issues and closing the identified gaps. Something else that's often overlooked is internal company policies. Those need to be reviewed as well. And I'm talking about policies like remote work, mobility, and acceptable use of company resources. These will almost certainly need to be updated. Finally, a lot's changed in the marketplace in the last year, so you're going to want to take a closer look at the supplier landscape. Some suppliers like GTT, Windstream, they've really struggled, while other suppliers like Microsoft and, no surprise, Zoom have flourished. Your service may be affected in either case.
It's easy to get caught up in tackling the immediate needs of a changed business environment, but don't lose sight of your roadmap and that transformational opportunity or those transformational opportunities that are going to drive cost reductions and improve your time to market.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, Joe. And I also suggest keeping the strategy really handy. You're likely going to need to reassess it again in 2021 because we don't know yet the impact and timing of the vaccinations. How quickly will people actually be able to get back into offices? So you might need to pull that same executive team, your leaders from your company together again each quarter in 2021 to reassess where you're at against that strategy and refine it as needed.
Yeah, I think that companies also really need to continue to nurture a suite of life cycle initiatives that deliver both short and long-term savings opportunities. You definitely don't want to be caught flat-footed when the CFO comes knocking on your door for savings. I do want to emphasize again, going to market with an RFP is highly effective for achieving long-term savings and improvements. Fact is, incumbent suppliers have limited incentive to offer, never mind deliver, transformational change. Those account teams profit from the status quo of the entrenched services and technologies they are delivering to your organization today. RFPs deliver competitive pressure more effectively than any other sourcing strategy and institutionalize this concept of change, both within your organization and within the community of suppliers that support your business.
Okay, thanks, guys. This has been just a great set of observations and recommendations that you've offered up. And this really is an important topic as we all head into 2021. So if you want to get a jump on your planning, Theresa, Tony, me, and heck, the rest of our LB3 and TC2 colleagues, we're here and ready to help. And as always, you can stay up to date by checking out our websites. You can follow us on LinkedIn, and of course, you can subscribe to Staying Connected.